Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to Firstpost America. We're live in the nation's capital of Washington, D.C. And over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the United States and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, here's a look at the latest headlines. North Korea says it has no interest in any policy or proposals for reconciliation with South Korea. This is in response to peace overtures by the South's liberal president Lee Jae-myung. China's top Buddhist authority says the abbot of the Shaolin Temple, known as the birthplace of Kung Fu, will be disrobed for extremely bad behavior after he was placed under investigation for alleged embezzlement. Former Colombian President Alvaro Uribe will learn his fate later today in a witness tampering case that saw him become the country's first ever former head of state to be put on trial. Russia's national carrier Aeroflot cancels over 40 flights after a failure in its information systems as a hacking group claims ties to Ukraine and Belarus says it is in fact behind the crippling cyber attack. And Elon Musk says Tesla has signed a $16.5 billion deal to source AI chips from Samsung Electronics, a move expected to boost the South Korean tech giant's struggling contract manufacturing business. We began today in the United Kingdom, where a disturbing mid-air incident unfolded aboard a commercial flight to Scotland. On Sunday morning, passengers on an easyJet flight from Luton, England to Glasgow in Scotland were left shaken after a man on board began shouting violent threats. Footage from inside the cabin showed him repeatedly shouting, "Death to America" and "Death to Trump." He could also be heard chanting Allahu Akbar, an Arabic phrase that means God is great, as crew members tried to de-escalate the situation while in flight.
Going to bomb the plane! Death to America! Death to Trump! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
Oh my God.
Sit down. Don't move.
The video, now widely shared online, also captures the moment passengers intervene, pinning the man to the floor and holding him down. Crew members were also seen climbing over seats to retrieve the man's belongings. And when asked why he wanted to bomb the plane, witnesses say he responded that he wanted to send a message to President Trump, who was at the time visiting Scotland. The aircraft touched down safely in Glasgow around 8:20 a.m. local time, and police then boarded the flight and arrested the 41-year-old suspect. And now authorities confirm that no explosives or weapons were in fact found and no passengers were injured.
We received a report of a man causing a disturbance on a flight arriving in Glasgow. Officers boarded the plane on its arrival, and a 41-year-old man was arrested and remains in custody. At this time, we believe the incident was contained and that nobody else was involved. We are aware of videos circulating online, and these are being assessed by counterterrorism officers.
The airline carrier easyJet also shared a statement with media outlets following the incident, emphasizing that safety remains their top priority.
Crew are trained to assess all situations and act quickly and appropriately to ensure that the safety of the flight and other customers is not compromised at any time. The safety and well-being of our customers and crew is always the company's highest priority.
Now the incident comes amid President Trump's 4-day visit to Scotland, where he's been seen playing golf at his resort and meeting with European officials for trade talks. And besides, his president has also sparked demonstrations in Scotland, where he's meeting British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. And over the weekend, hundreds of anti-Trump protesters gathered outside the U.S. consulate in Edinburgh. Demonstrators were seen holding signs and chanting slogans criticizing the U.S. president. Take a look.
I'm very much against everything that Trump stands for and what he's doing in America. So I want people to know, the Americans know that we're very much pro them, their democracy, but we really want the lies, the falsehoods, the racism, the fascism to stop. So that's why we're all demonstrating today.
With security already heightened following last year's assassination attempt, authorities have been visibly guarding the president's movements and facilities, particularly around his golf course. Reports also suggest that a security team unveiled what appears to be a heavily armored golf cart, reportedly nicknamed Golf Force One, to shadow him on the course. And with the suspect now in custody, an investigation is currently underway as authorities continue to monitor the security landscape and take no chances surrounding the president's visit. And now to Ohio, where a shocking act of street violence in downtown Cincinnati has stunned the nation. Disturbing footage over the weekend shows a man and woman brutally attacked by a mob in the heart of the city, just blocks from the Cincinnati Music Festival. The Cincinnati Police has now launched an investigation into the incident, calling the violent display absolutely unacceptable.
The behavior displayed is nothing short of cruel and absolutely unacceptable. Our investigative team is working diligently to identify every individual involved in causing harm. It's also important to clarify, this was a sudden dispute between individuals following a verbal altercation.
The video, which was filmed last Friday, shows a man in a white t-shirt being chased by two other men. He's then shoved to the ground and mercilessly punched and kicked as he lies defenseless on the pavement. Within seconds, more people, both men and women from the crowd, rush in, and one individual body slams the man while others stomp on his head and torso. And as the man struggles to get up with his face bloodied, he collapses almost immediately after taking a few steps. Now, what happens next is even more terrifying. A woman rushes in to check on the injured man, only to be attacked herself. She appears to try to hold one of the assailants back, but is punched in the face twice. Her head then smashes against the pavement as she falls unconscious, blood seeping from her mouth. Both the identity and condition of the man and the woman remain unknown. Witnesses told local media outlets there was a verbal altercation about 15 minutes prior to the incident, with racial slurs reportedly exchanged, although it's unclear who in fact instigated the fight. Now, the crowd that attacked the pair appeared to be predominantly African American, leading to online speculation about possible racial motivation, something the police have not confirmed. The Cincinnati Fraternal Order of Police president condemned not just the attack, but also the bystanders who filmed the violence instead of calling 911.
This video shows downtown is disgusting. What's equally disgusting are those who chose to watch and record instead of calling 911, attempting to defuse the situation or render aid. I have full faith in the Central Business Section investigators. They will make arrests in the near future. It will then be the responsibility of the court system to hold these violent thugs accountable.
Public figures even weighed in on the horrific incident, with tech billionaire Elon Musk reposting a screenshot from the video on X showing the unconscious woman on the ground. He commented, "That guy almost killed this woman, aggravated assault." His post rapidly gained traction, adding pressure on authorities to act swiftly. Meanwhile, Ohio Republican gubernatorial candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, a Cincinnati native, released a statement slamming the city's leadership.
It's sad to see this kind of heinous violence on the streets. Democrats in our state remain silent while their constituents suffer from lax on-crime policies. We're going to bring law and order back to Ohio.
So as police continue combing through social media and surveillance footage, they've asked anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers hotline. The hunt is on and the city waits, eyes glued to the screen, for the next frame in this chilling real-life drama. And now to a story that mixes politics, pop culture, and a hefty dose of controversy. President Trump is back in the headlines, this time accusing Beyonce, Oprah, and Kamala Harris of breaking campaign finance laws. Trump posted on Truth Social that although those who broke the law should be prosecuted, from claims of million-dollar payments for celebrity endorsements to renewed chatter about Jeffrey Epstein, Trump's Truth Social tirade is raising eyebrows and sparking fresh debate. So what's fact, what's fiction, and what's political theater? Our latest report breaks it all down.
U.S. President Donald Trump has stirred the pot once again. He's alleging that pop superstar Beyonce, along with media mogul Oprah Winfrey and civil rights activist Al Sharpton, received illegal payments from the Democratic Party in exchange for endorsing Kamala Harris during the 2024 presidential campaign. In a Truth Social post made during his visit to Scotland, Trump accused the Harris campaign of dishing out millions in what he called illegal endorsement fees. Trump claimed Beyonce was handed $11 million for a brief appearance at a Houston rally last October. It was an event where, according to Trump, Beyonce never sang and exited to a booing and angry audience. Trump also alleged that Oprah received $3 million for expenses and Sharpton was paid $600,000, despite allegedly doing absolutely nothing. President Trump further wrote that these fees were incorrectly stated in the books and records. He concluded his post by stating that all of those who received endorsement money broke the law and should be prosecuted. However, campaign finance records and statements from those involved tell a different story. As per reports, Federal Election Commission filings show a $165,000 payment was made by the Harris campaign to Beyonce's production company. It was categorized as campaign event production. At the rally, Beyonce delivered a poetic speech calling for national unity. She told the crowd that it is time to sing a new song. No musical performance, just carefully crafted political prose. As for Oprah, Harris's campaign spokesperson had previously clarified that $1 million spent on Harpo Productions wasn't a celebrity payout, but the cost of staging a high-profile event in Michigan. Oprah herself echoed the sentiment last year, stating the people who worked on that production needed to be paid. Still, the post comes at a convenient time for Trump, who's facing mounting pressure over his alleged ties to late Jeffrey Epstein. He recently slammed ongoing probes into Epstein's connections as a Democratic con job. But critics say his recent moves are just deflection tactics, meant to shift focus away from the Epstein case. Trump has filed a $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal, its owner Rupert Murdoch, and others over a published letter allegedly linking him to the sex offender. From lawsuits against media giants to celebrity conspiracy theories, Trump seems to be taking his 2024 grievances into 2025. However, not without a signature mix of deflection, drama, and Truth Social tirades.
President Donald Trump just marked 6 months in office, but that hasn't stopped speculation about his potential successor. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has addressed growing speculation about his presidential ambitions in the 2028 presidential election. Speaking on Fox News with the president's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, Rubio dismissed, at least for now, the talk that he might challenge Vice President J.D. Vance for the Republican Party's 2028 presidential nomination.
Well, I think J.D. Vance would be a great nominee, if he decides he wants to do that. I think he's doing a great job as vice president.
The remarks came during an interview that aired on Saturday, and Rubio not only threw his support behind Vance, but he also described the vice president as one of his closest friends in politics.
It's kind of early, you know, but being in the role that I'm in here at the Secretary of State, I really don't play in politics. I want to do this job as long as the president allows me to do it and stay in that job, which would keep me here all the way through January of 2028.
The praise comes at a time when both men have been mentioned by President Donald Trump himself as potential presidential contenders. In May, during an interview where Trump backed away from the idea of a third term, he named both as probable candidates.
You look at Marco, you look at J.D. Vance, who's fantastic. I could name 10, 15, 20 people right now just sitting here. I think we have a tremendous party. And you know what I can't name? I can't name one Democrat.
Now, Rubio was tapped to join the Trump administration shortly after last year's election. A former senator from Florida, Rubio was one of the earliest confirmed members of the president's second-term cabinet. Since then, he's taken on several roles in the administration, including the one of National Security Advisor, as well as overseeing the U.S. Agency for International Development. Meanwhile, Vice President J.D. Vance has not yet confirmed any plans to run in 2028, but he has repeatedly teased his future plans. His name has reportedly remained central to conversations about the future of the Republican Party. In fact, earlier this month, a post on the social media platform Blue Sky appeared to fuel speculation that Vance was positioning himself to run once Donald Trump completes his second and final term. Moreover, last week, a new poll reportedly conducted by Emerson College suggested that Vance held a narrow lead over three potential Democratic presidential candidates: former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, California Governor Gavin Newsom, and New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And in an earlier poll conducted last month by the same college poll, Vice President Vance led the pack with 46% support for the 2028 Republican nomination, far ahead of Secretary of State Marco Rubio at 12% and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis at just 9%. So as the 2028 presidential race begins to take shape, Rubio's praise not only boosts the VP's prospects, but it also signals that the president's inner circle may already be thinking beyond Donald Trump. But as Marco Rubio downplays talk of a 2028 presidential run, is he really stepping aside before the race even begins, or simply biding his time? And in our final report, we take you to a runway few expected to ever reopen. This week, a Nordwind Airlines jet took off from Moscow and landed in Pyongyang, marking the first direct flight between Russia and North Korea in over 70 years. It comes at a time when the two nations are drawing closer both diplomatically and strategically. With tourism being cautiously revived in North Korea and Russia seeking new travel corridors, this route could be the start of a new voyage between the two nations. But as always with Pyongyang, what lies ahead remains uncertain. Here's the story with more.
One of the world's most unusual air routes just took off, quite literally. On Sunday evening, a Nordwind Airlines Boeing 777 departed Moscow's Sheremetyevo Airport and touched down in Pyongyang 8 hours later, launching the first direct flight between the Russian and North Korean capitals in over 70 years. The flight was fully booked, and the return leg, scheduled for Tuesday, was too. Tickets priced around 45,000 rubles, which is around $570, were snapped up quickly, despite North Korea remaining one of the most restricted destinations on Earth. Russia's transport ministry confirmed that the route will initially operate just once a month, but the symbolism of this new flight path already speaks volumes.
For the first time in more than 70 years of diplomatic relations, we are launching direct flights between the capitals of our countries.
Now, this new link did not come out of nowhere. It is the latest marker of growing public ties between Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un. As Russia's relationship with the West continue to crumble over its war in Ukraine, it is turning to less conventional partners. And North Korea, historically isolated and heavily sanctioned, has shown readiness to engage with very clear boundaries. While both countries deny violating international law, reports suggest Pyongyang has sent ammunition and arms to aid Russian operations in Ukraine. Meanwhile, last year's defense pact, signed during President Vladimir Putin's rare visit to North Korea, added another layer of public cooperation, and now planes. But there's also a domestic reason for this new runway diplomacy: tourism. North Korea, which sealed its borders tightly during the pandemic, is opening them again. In June, leader Kim Jong-un unveiled a massive beachfront resort, Wonsan Kalma, on the country's east coast. Equipped with hotels, shopping centers, and a water park, the regime hopes it will attract up to 20,000 visitors annually. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov toured the site earlier this month, and he promised to promote it among Russian tourists. Although regular tourism remains banned, Russians are quietly being welcomed in select areas via state-sanctioned group tours. In April, even a few foreign runners were allowed into Pyongyang for a rare international marathon. And now Nordwind, which once offered Russians flights to sunny European holiday spots, finds itself flying into one of the least understood capitals in the world. The airline had to scale back most international routes after the European Union imposed flight bans in response to Russia's invasion. But what happens next is still unclear. Will this flight become a tradition or just another geopolitical stunt? And can travel really thrive between two nations who are facing sweeping sanctions? Amid all the speculation, one thing is certain. When a plane full of Russians lands in Pyongyang, the world will pay attention.
That's all we have time for today. We certainly thank you for tuning in. We hope to see you right back here again tomorrow, everyone. Thanks so much for watching.